Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Kendra Belling moved like someone who understood the value of quiet. It was a habit shaped by years of working in other people's mansions, learning how to glide instead of walk, how to speak with a smile instead of a complaint, and how to disappear before anyone remembered to thank her. But today, she didn't glide. She floated. Because for the first time in her life, something good had happened for her. Kendra pushed open the glass door of the private service elevator and stepped out into the polished marble hallway of the 22nd floor, still feeling the warmth of joyful disbelief wrapped around her like a scarf. Her coworkers had just surprised her with a small celebration, paper cups of cheap champagne and a store-bought cake, because she had finally been promoted to lead domestic coordinator at Elite Care Homes. Not bad for a girl raised in one of Atlanta's loudest neighborhoods, who once thought she'd never escape the cycle she was born into. She should have gone straight home after the little party. She knew she should have. She didn't usually drink, and champagne hit her harder than expected. But she had one last task. She'd forgotten one of her cleaning kits in Penthouse Suite 2207, the private residence of Peter James, Atlanta's famously private, infamously disciplined billionaire real estate developer. She'd cleaned his penthouse earlier that morning to prepare for a silent donor walkthrough scheduled for tomorrow. Peter James was a mystery to most people. He lived alone, never threw parties, rarely entertained guests, and barely spoke to staff. A man who built half the skyline of Midtown Atlanta but didn't like to be photographed in it. He was also the kind of man everyone hesitated around, not out of fear, but out of respect. Quiet, sharp-eyed, impossible to read. But Kendra had cleaned his penthouse at least 20 times. She'd never seen him once. Still, she admired the man's home. And today, she had forgotten her kit in it. She exhaled and brushed a hand over her hair, long, straight, and black as polished obsidian. Her uniform, freshly washed for the morning shift, still looked crisp, a soft pink fitted top, a black skirt stopping neatly at her knees, and a white apron tied around her waist like a bow of responsibility. She saw her reflection in the elevator's mirrored interior, deep brown skin glowing under the lights, brown eyes bright enough to rival the chandelier bulbs. "Get your kit," she whispered to her reflection, "and go home before you embarrass yourself." She steadied herself and walked toward the penthouse hallway. A slight dizziness followed her steps, not dangerous, but definitely champagne-induced. She laughed softly at herself. 2 drinks. That's all it took to make her a little unsteady. When she reached the keypad beside Penthouse 2207, she blinked twice. Something looked off. The lock was already green. Had Peter's assistant left it unlocked? Had security been lazy? Or had someone else come through? Kendra frowned. The hallway was empty. Silent. Too silent. She hesitated, but then shook her head. "Just get your kit and go," she murmured again. The door opened with a quiet click. Inside, the penthouse was dim except for the warm glow of the city lights spilling in through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The skyline glittered in the darkness, sharp, brilliant, endless. His living room smelled faintly of eucalyptus and new books, the 2 scents she always associated with this place. Her cleaning kit sat right where she left it, on the marble kitchen island. She smiled in relief. Easy. Simple. In and out. But as she reached for the kit, the dizziness struck again, this time harder, like the floor shifted by an inch. She grabbed the counter to steady herself. Okay girl," she muttered. "Champagne is not your friend." She needed a minute. Just a minute. Her eyes drifted toward the large open door leading into the master bedroom. The bed. The bed looked like heaven. A wide white mattress with fluffy layers of blankets and pillows she'd fluffed just hours ago. She didn't mean to walk toward it, but her feet carried her without permission. "It's just for a second," she told herself, pressing a hand to her temple. 1 second turned into 2. 2 turned into her sitting on the edge. Sitting turned into sinking back onto the pillows. Maybe just 5 minutes. 5 minutes to let the dizziness pass. Just 5. Her eyelids slid closed like someone had pulled a curtain shut. And Kendra Belling, responsible, hardworking, never breaks rules Kendra, fell asleep in the billionaire's bed. The door to the penthouse opened again exactly 20 minutes later. Peter James stepped inside, loosening the button of his charcoal suit jacket as he exhaled sharply. He wasn't supposed to be home yet, but the meeting had ended early. Work rarely gave him surprises. Stepping into his quiet penthouse always felt like stepping into armor. Everything was structured, precise, spotless. It was the sanctuary he built after years of a life that offered him none. He tossed his keys on the entry table. Something felt wrong. The lights were dimmed differently. A faint floral scent lingered in the air. And there was a shape, soft, small, peaceful, lying across his bed. His heartbeat paused. A woman. In his room. In his bed. His first instinct was security. His second was disbelief. His third, when he recognized her pink top, white apron, and long black hair, was confusion. It was the cleaning girl. Kendra. Peter stepped closer, slowly, quietly, like approaching something fragile. She looked so small, curled against his pillows, her cheek resting softly against the blanket, her chest rising and falling in calm rhythm. Long black hair spilled down one arm, glistening faintly under the city lights. He knew immediately she hadn't done this intentionally. Kendra wasn't the type to violate boundaries. He'd noticed her before, moving efficiently, head down, humming softly to herself when she thought no one was near. She was hardworking, graceful, respectful. And right now, she looked exhausted. He could have woken her. Should have woken her. But instead, he reached for the blanket and gently pulled it over her shoulders. She whispered something unintelligible in her sleep. Was it just 5 minutes? And Peter felt something shift in him, something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Softness. The penthouse had never held softness. But tonight, because of her, it did. He stepped back slowly, hands in his pockets. Whatever happened here, he wasn't angry. If anything, he found himself wanting to know why this woman looked like she carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken stories. And why, seeing her in his space, didn't feel like an intrusion. It felt like the start of something. Something he wasn't prepared for. Something he couldn't ignore. Kendra woke to a gentle stillness, the kind that didn't belong to her world. Her lashes fluttered, adjusting to the muted glow of the penthouse bedroom. For a moment, she couldn't place where she was. The bed beneath her felt too soft. The sheets carried a faint cedar scent. And the quiet, wide, warm, deliberate, felt nothing like her apartment's thin walls and rumbling street noise. Then memory rushed back like cold water. Her heart thudded. She pushed herself upright so fast the blanket slid off her shoulders. "Oh no. Oh no," she whispered, eyes widening as she realized she was still in her pink-fitted top, knee-length black skirt, and white apron, looking every bit the maid who had absolutely no business sleeping in a billionaire's private room. She checked the time on her phone, only to realize her phone wasn't in her hand. She didn't remember setting it down. She didn't remember much at all after the dizziness had hit. "Lord, please tell me nobody saw. You're awake." The voice was calm, deep, and steady. A man's voice. She froze. Peter James leaned against the doorway, arms crossed loosely over his chest, looking nothing like the intimidating figure plastered across business magazines. Without his usual suit jacket, wearing only a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled and the top buttons undone, he looked far less polished and far more human. Her breath hitched. She scrambled to her feet, smoothing her skirt, trying to regain dignity that had evaporated the second she woke up in his bed. "Mr. James, I can explain," she stammered. "I didn't mean to, this wasn't, I'm so sorry." He raised a hand slightly. "You don't need to panic." "I'm not panicking," she lied, panicking. He took a step closer, his voice low but gentle. "You were asleep when I came home. Completely out cold. I figured waking you abruptly wouldn't help." Kendra's face warmed with embarrassment so fierce she wished she could melt into the floor. "I shouldn't have come in," she whispered. "I only needed my cleaning kit. I thought I'd be here 1 minute. I didn't mean to sit." "I must have," she swallowed hard. Lost balance. Peter studied her quietly, his expression unreadable. Not cold. Not amused. Just attentive. Like he was trying to understand a puzzle. "You didn't break anything," he said. "You didn't take anything. You didn't cause harm. You just passed out." His tone lacked judgment, but that almost made her anxiety worse. "This is your bedroom," she said, voice tight. Your space. This is the worst possible mistake an employee could make. You're not in trouble. But you're not. His voice was firm, decisive. Her shoulders lowered, not because her fear disappeared, but because his certainty left no room for doubt. Still, shame wrapped around her like another blanket. I've never done anything like this, she murmured, staring at her hands. I don't drink. I don't fall asleep at work. I don't invade people's homes. I'm mortified. Peter stepped forward, his gaze softening. You looked exhausted, he said. Not careless. Exhausted. She pressed her lips together, her throat tightening. He wasn't wrong. She'd spent her entire week covering extra shifts, helping her mother with doctor's appointments, coaching her younger sister through college decisions, and fighting Atlanta traffic that aged her a decade each day. But exhaustion felt like an excuse, and Kendra hated excuses. I'll return the keys, she said quickly. You won't see this again. I promise. He shook his head. You're not fired. That's not your assistant's choice. Or your security team's choice. It's yours. And I said you're not fired. She lifted her eyes to him. You really mean that? He nodded once. Absolutely. Kendra inhaled slowly, as if letting relief seep in by inches. Peter moved closer to the kitchen island, retrieving her cleaning kit. You forgot this, he said, placing it gently in her hands. She hadn't expected tenderness from a man rumored to be colder than the entire state of Alaska. But tenderness was exactly what she felt in his gesture. I should go, she whispered. I shouldn't take any more of your time. You're free to leave whenever you're ready, he replied. But there's something you should know before you do. Her fingers tightened on the handle of the kit. Peter studied her with an intensity she wasn't prepared for, an intensity that made her feel seen in a way she rarely did. You work harder than anyone who's ever set foot in this penthouse, he said quietly. I've noticed. Kendra blinked. You noticed me? He nodded. You're efficient. You don't cut corners. You take pride in what you do. And you've never once complained. Not once. Her breath wavered. People didn't say things like that to her. They said thank you occasionally. They said could you dust this too? Often. But no one noticed. Not like this. Peter continued, whatever led you here tonight wasn't irresponsibility. It was an accident. A human one. Kendra lowered her gaze, trying, and failing, to steady her heartbeat. Thank you, she whispered. That's very kind. It's honest, he corrected. Silence settled between them, thick but strangely warm. Kendra finally stepped toward the exit, but before she reached the door, Peter spoke again. Kendra. She paused. He hesitated, something she wasn't sure a billionaire ever did. If you ever need help, he said softly, I want you to call my office. Or call me directly. Her eyes widened. Me? Why would you? Because last night you walked into my home by mistake, he replied, but I don't think the exhaustion that caused it was a mistake at all. She didn't understand what he meant, not fully, but his tone made her chest tighten in a way she couldn't explain. Just promise me you won't disappear after tonight, he added. She blinked. Disappear. He held her gaze, steady and unshaken. I don't want this to be the last time we speak. Kendra stood frozen just inside the doorway, her hand resting on the cool metal handle. A part of her wanted to run, bolt down the hall, take the service elevator, and forget this night ever happened. But something in Peter's voice held her still. I don't want this to be the last time we speak. Nobody had ever said that to her. Not a man like him. Not in a tone that felt so intentional. She turned slowly. Peter hadn't moved from his spot near the kitchen island. The city skyline glowed behind him, outlining his broad frame in silver light. His expression held no impatience, no coldness, only steady sincerity, like he meant every word. You don't want this to be the last time, she repeated softly. His gaze didn't waver. Correct. Kendra swallowed, her pulse jumping in her throat. Mr. James, you're my employer, she said carefully. I clean your penthouse. I'm part-time staff. Nothing about tonight should extend into anything more. It wouldn't be professional. He stepped forward, not imposing, not forceful, Just, closer. Professional isn't the word I'd use for what happened tonight, he said. Human. That's closer. Her breath caught. He continued, most people think I'm made of stone. They assume I don't notice the employees who come in and out. But I'm more observant than people think. Kendra's cheeks warmed again, a flush spreading across her deep brown skin. What exactly have you noticed? She asked cautiously. A faint smile, not quite a smile, but softer than his usual seriousness, touched his features. That you're precise. Consistent. And despite how hard your job is, you greet people with a warmth that doesn't seem to run out, he said. Most people lose that. You haven't. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Compliments came rarely. Genuine ones came never. You don't have to say these things, she murmured. I know. His voice was quiet. That's why I am. The honesty in his tone struck her harder than she expected. Peter took another small step, leaving only a few feet between them. Close enough for her to see the flecks of darker brown in his eyes. Close enough for her heartbeat to quicken. Kendra, he said, if something in your life is too heavy, too much, you don't have to pretend you're fine. Not with me. Her chest tightened, and she looked away, blinking fast. I don't want pity. It isn't pity. There was nothing soft or unsure about his reply. It's recognition. That word sent a shiver through her. He wasn't treating her like charity. He wasn't acting like a savior. He was looking at her like she was his equal, even though she was standing in a pink top, a black knee-length skirt, a white apron tied around her waist, like a worker caught where she shouldn't be. But he didn't see the uniform. He saw her. Kendra's fingers tightened around the cleaning kit handle. I should go, she whispered. He nodded slowly. If that's what you want. Her eyes drifted toward the open doorway again. The hall beyond looked safe, familiar, ordinary. But she didn't walk through it. Instead, she said, you really want me to call you? After tonight? Yes, he answered without hesitation. Why? Peter held her gaze, steady as stone, warm as light. Because most people in my world show up wanting something from me, he said. Money. Connections. Influence. But you fell asleep in my bed and apologized like you'd broken a law. You don't want anything from me. She exhaled shakily. He stepped even closer, stopping only when he was close enough for her to feel the subtle warmth radiating from him. And, he added, because I haven't been able to get you out of my head for months. Her eyes snapped up. What? She breathed. The confession seemed to surprise even him, but he didn't take it back. You're memorable, Kendra. No one remembers Maid's, she whispered. I do. Silence fell between them, heavy but electric. A new shift. A new possibility neither of them had planned for. But Kendra pulled herself back together with a breath. This is dangerous, she said quietly. Lines like this, they get blurred. And I can't afford to lose my job. I help my mother. I support my sister. My schedule's packed. My life's not free. You think mine is? He asked gently. She blinked. He continued, I live in a glass tower people assume is luxury. It's mostly isolation. Everyone sees the billionaire. Nobody sees the man. Kendra's heartbeat softened a little at that. You don't have to isolate yourself, she said. You choose to. And tonight, he murmured, I chose not to. She felt that statement settle deep inside her, unexpected, warm, terrifying. He looked at her as if waiting for a door to open. Not physically. Emotionally. But Kendra stepped back. Not out of fear of him, fear of what this could become. I need time to think, she whispered. Peter nodded. Take all the time you need. She turned, finally stepping into the hallway. She took 3 slow steps, her pulse still racing, her mind spinning. Kendra. His voice stopped her again. She glanced over her shoulder. He stood framed by the doorway, city lights glinting behind him, his expression calm but filled with something unmistakable, something she wasn't ready to name. No matter how much time you take, he said, don't disappear. She held his gaze for 1 breath. 2. 3. I won't, she said softly. Then she walked away, the door closing behind her with a quiet click, yet it felt like the beginning of something far louder. Something that would not stay quietly behind a door. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. Quiet, slow, suspended in a hush that pressed against Kendra's ribcage. Her reflection stared back from the brushed metal walls, long black hair slightly tousled, pink-fitted top softening her silhouette, black skirt perfectly neat despite the chaos in her chest, white apron still tied firmly like a reminder of where she belonged. Yet nothing about tonight felt like where she belonged. She clutched her cleaning kit tightly against her side. She shouldn't have stayed that long. Shouldn't have looked back. Shouldn't have felt her pulse jump when Peter's voice followed her into the hallway. But she had. And no matter how far the elevator descended, the sound of his words followed her. Don't disappear. When the doors slid open, the lobby greeted her with polished floors and the soft murmur of security staff finishing their night rounds. Normally, she slipped through unnoticed. Tonight, her legs moved slower, as though her mind needed time to absorb everything at once. Kendra? You good? Her coworker Janelle had just clocked in for the late shift, tying her hair into a tight bun. She paused when she spotted Kendra standing in the center of the lobby, like someone who forgot where she was going. Kendra snapped back to reality. Yeah, I'm fine, she lied. You look shaken. Did something happen upstairs? Kendra opened her mouth, then closed it. She couldn't tell anyone. Not because something wrong had happened, but because something unexpected had happened. Something she couldn't permit gossip to ruin. I'm okay, she said again, softer this time. Janelle eyed her curiously, but didn't press. Aight. Get home safe. Kendra nodded and pushed through the glass doors into the warm Atlanta night. Her bus stop was 3 blocks away, lit by street lamps and the soft neon glow spilling from a 24-hour diner. Kendra sat on the bench, cleaning kit beside her, apron still tied neatly, and exhaled a breath she'd been holding since she walked out of Peter's penthouse. She needed to calm down. Needed to think straight. Needed to shove Peter James out of her mind before he rearranged everything inside it. But the moment she closed her eyes, she saw him again. Leaning against the kitchen island, sleeves rolled, expression steady, saying she was memorable. Her heart tightened. Stop it, she whispered to herself. She didn't have space for this. Not for feelings. Not for distraction. Not for men, especially not billionaires with warm voices and unsettling honesty. She had a mother with medical bills. A younger sister starting community college. Rent that climbed every 6 months. Shifts that drained her feet and her patience. Romance was a luxury she didn't have time or energy for. Yet, her mind whispered, he wasn't offering romance. He was offering curiosity, attention, a chance to be seen. And that was more dangerous than romance. Kendra straightened her spine, inhaling deeply as the bus approached with a low mechanical rumble. She boarded, took a seat near the window, and watched the city glide by, lights, traffic, late-night crowds laughing outside bars. Her reflection in the window looked calmer now. But her thoughts were not. Why had he noticed her? Why had he cared? And why did a single sentence, "Don't disappear," feel like it was stitched directly into her heartbeat? When she reached her apartment, she silently slipped inside, careful not to wake her mother sleeping in the next room. She washed her face, changed into old cotton shorts and a t-shirt, and collapsed onto her worn-out mattress. But sleep didn't come. Peter James had carved out space in her thoughts, and no amount of tossing on her bed could erase it. Morning came with a jolt, the alarm buzzing harshly at 6 a.m. Kendra groaned, rolled over, and tried to tame her wild hair with one hand. She had work in 3 hours. And she had to decide what she was going to do about Peter. Every instinct screamed, ignore it. Forget it. Move on. But another voice, quieter, honest, inconvenient, whispered. He didn't treat you like a maid. He treated you like someone. That was rare. Dangerously rare. She dragged herself into the kitchen and brewed coffee while reviewing her schedule on her phone. Her day looked normal enough. Apartment cleaning at 9, office sweep polishing at 1, back-to-back tasks until evening. Her thoughts drifted back to his request. Not a demand. A request. If you ever need help, I want you to call me directly. Her chest tightened. She wasn't someone who accepted help. She was the help. But maybe he didn't see her that way. Her fingers hovered over her phone screen. Should she text? Call? Pretend nothing happened? Before she could decide, her phone vibrated. A message. From a number she didn't have stored. Unknown. Clean formatting. Sharp punctuation. Peter James, good morning. I hope you made it home safely. I meant what I said. Don't disappear. Kendra nearly dropped her phone. Her heart raced. Her throat tightened. Her hands trembled around the device. He texted her. The billionaire texted her. And he remembered. He remembered everything. She stared at the message, unable to form a reply, mind buzzing with a mix of fear and something dangerously close to anticipation. Her mother's soft footsteps stirred behind her. Kenny? Everything okay? Kendra cleared her throat quickly. Yeah, Mama. I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. She was at the edge of a decision she wasn't ready to make. A decision that could shift everything. She typed 3 words. Then deleted them. Typed a new sentence. Deleted that too. Finally, she sent 2 simple words. Kendra, thank you. She hit send, heart hammering in her chest. Before she could overthink it, another message flashed on her screen. Peter, can we talk today? In person? Kendra stopped breathing. Talk? In person? Today? She stared at her reflection in the microwave door, eyes wide, mind spinning. This wasn't a mistake anymore. Something was unfolding. Something neither of them could ignore. And something she couldn't walk away from, not this time. Before we continue this unexpected journey between a maid who wanted nothing and a billionaire who never let anyone close, tell me, where are you watching from tonight? And if Kendra and Peter's story hooked you already, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with us. The next chapter might just change everything. Kendra stared at the message glowing on her phone screen. Peter, can we talk today? In person? Her breath caught in her throat. Morning light filtered through the faded curtains of her small apartment, painting golden stripes across the kitchen counter. The world around her felt normal, quiet, familiar, unchanged. But inside her chest, everything vibrated with new intensity. Her mother poured hot water into a mug behind her. You're frowning at that phone like it offended you. Kendra blinked, locking the screen quickly. It's nothing. That's the same nothing face you had when you lost your first paycheck, her mother said gently. What happened? Kendra hesitated. She couldn't say, Mama, the billionaire I accidentally fell asleep on is texting me like I'm someone important. She couldn't even explain it to herself yet. It's just work, she whispered. Her mother nodded, satisfied enough not to dig deeper. She settled at the table, stirring her tea slowly. Well, whatever it is, handle it with wisdom. Kendra managed a small smile. I'll try. But as soon as her mother stepped into the living room, she checked her phone again. The message was still there, waiting, bold and impossible to ignore. Talk. In person. Today. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She typed. What do you want to talk about? Her thumb rested over the send button. But she didn't press it. Instead, she erased the words and typed something safer. Kendra, when? The reply came almost instantly. Peter, whenever you're free. I can adjust my schedule. A billionaire offering to adjust his schedule for her? She shut her eyes briefly, overwhelmed. At her cleaning job, no one adjusted anything for anyone. You fit the schedule or you were replaced. A soft tremor traveled through her chest. She typed again. Kendra, after my morning shift. Around noon. Seconds later. Peter, perfect. I'll send a car for you. Kendra froze. A car? No. No way. Absolutely not. She typed quickly. No need. I'll get there myself. He answered with 3 dots, a pause, then. Peter, if that makes you comfortable, I'll respect it. Text me when you arrive. Her pulse eased a little. At least he respected boundaries. By the time Kendra reached her first cleaning job at 9 a.m., her nerves were so wound up she nearly dropped her microfiber cloth twice. The apartment she was assigned to clean belonged to a traveling nurse, quiet and simple. But her mind wasn't in the kitchen she scrubbed or the living room she dusted. Her mind kept drifting back to Peter's message. His tone. His insistence she not disappear. At 11:52 a.m., she finished the last polish on the bathroom sink, retied her apron, and stepped out into the sunlit street. Atlanta's late morning warmth brushed her skin, but her stomach fluttered with nerves. Should she really go? Was this smart? Safe? Appropriate? Or was she risking everything she had worked so hard to maintain? She stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, clutching her cleaning kit against her side. Cars passed. People walked by. The world spun normally while she stood frozen. Then she remembered his words. Most people show up wanting something from me, but you don't. She inhaled. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a mistake. She opened her phone. Kendra, I'm on my way. His answer came immediately. Peter, I'll be waiting. It took her 15 minutes to reach his building entrance. The tall glass structure, with its modern lines and mirror-like facade, looked more imposing now that she wasn't entering as staff. She paused outside the doors, smoothing her pink top and adjusting her skirt. She felt small in her uniform, pink-fitted blouse, knee-length black skirt, white apron, but today it wasn't about attire. Today was about courage. Inside the lobby, the security guard who usually barely nodded at her now straightened with surprise. Miss Belling? You're on Mr. James's guest list today. Guest list. Not staff list. Her heart thudded. She stepped into the private elevator, the one she always assumed was off-limits to her, and rode up in silence. No cleaning carts. No buckets. No colleagues. Just her. The elevator opened directly into a quiet foyer outside Peter's penthouse. And there he was. Peter James. Standing near the large window, hands in his pockets, posture calm but alert. When he turned and saw her, something subtle softened in his eyes. You came, he said. It wasn't an assumption. It was gratitude. Kendra nodded, swallowing the tremor in her voice. You asked me to. He stepped closer by a few slow paces, careful not to overwhelm her. I'm glad you did, he said. There's something I need to say. Something I didn't want to leave unsaid. Her throat tightened. Okay. He studied her for a moment, as though choosing his words carefully. Last night, it wasn't just an accident to me, he began. It made me realize how long it's been since I welcomed someone into my life without a barrier between us. Kendra's breath caught. He continued, I don't want to cross lines, or make assumptions, or complicate your world. But I also don't want to pretend I didn't notice something between us. Her pulse raced. Mr. James. Peter, he corrected softly. When we talk like this, call me Peter. Her voice wavered. Peter. I don't know what this is. Neither do I, he admitted. But I know I want to understand it. And I want to hear your voice in that understanding. Heat rose in her chest, fear, surprise, and something warm enough to scare her. I'm just a maid, she murmured. He shook his head. You're the woman who made me rethink the silence I built around myself. Her breath trembled. And if you're willing, he added quietly, I'd like to see where this leads, at your pace with your rules. Kendra's heart thudded so loudly she almost stepped back. Almost. But she didn't. Because something inside her, a small brave ember, finally sparked. Then talk, she whispered. Peter's expression gentled. We'll go slowly, he said. I just need to know you're not walking away. Kendra looked into his eyes, steady and sincere, and for the first time, she didn't feel like a maid standing before a billionaire. She felt like a woman being chosen. I'm here, she said softly. For now. I'm here. And the meaning in those words shifted the room around them, silent but profound. For a moment, neither of them moved. Kendra stood at the edge of the spacious foyer, clutching her cleaning kit like a fragile shield, even though she wasn't here to work today. Peter remained only a few steps away, watching her with a focus that made her feel exposed and grounded at the same time. She drew a breath. So what did you want to talk about? She asked quietly. Peter motioned toward the living area. Let's sit. If that's okay with you. She nodded, following him to a minimalist couch that faced the Atlanta skyline. She sat on the far end, leaving space between them. Space she needed. Space he respected. Peter settled opposite her, not too close, not too far, just enough to show intention without pressure. His presence was calm but charged with something unspoken. He leaned forward slightly. I want to understand your life, he said. Not to pry. I just want to know you. Kendra blinked. Why? There's nothing special about me. He shook his head gently. That's where you're wrong. Her pulse skipped. Peter continued, most people I meet live behind masks, polished, curated versions of themselves. You don't. You're real. Kendra looked down at her lap. Being real doesn't pay the bills. That's not what I meant. She stayed silent, and he exhaled softly, choosing his next words. Last night, he said, when I saw you asleep, I realized how much weight you carry, and how little rest you allow yourself. Her throat tightened. He wasn't judging her. He was seeing her. Deeply. Accurately. Carefully. And that scared her more than anything. You don't know what I carry, she whispered. Then tell me. She looked up slowly, meeting his eyes. They weren't cold. Or demanding. Just open. The truth is, she began, voice hesitant, I work too much because people depend on me. My mom's health isn't the best. My sister's trying to get into nursing school. I pick up extra shifts so they don't have to worry. Peter listened without interrupting, not once. Kendra continued, most days I'm tired before noon. Most nights I fall asleep with my shoes barely off. But I manage. I don't complain. People like me don't get to complain. We just keep moving. Peter leaned in slightly, elbows resting on his knees. And who looks out for you? She forced a smile. Me, I guess. Not anymore. Kendra stared at him. What is that supposed to mean? It means, he said slowly, you're not alone in this anymore. Not if you don't want to be. She inhaled sharply. There it was again, his insistence on being part of her world. A world she had spent years protecting, guarding, keeping small. You don't owe me anything, she said. I know. You don't need to save me. I'm not trying to. Then what are you trying to do, Peter? He held her gaze, steady and sincere. I'm trying to show you that someone cares. Her breath trembled. Nobody had said that to her in years, maybe ever. Not with this kind of clarity. Not from a place that didn't demand anything in return. Silence settled between them again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was thick with possibility. What if this ruins everything? She whispered. My job. My reputation. My peace. It won't, he replied firmly. Not if we move slow. Not if we respect boundaries. Not if we protect your privacy. His tone was confident, but not arrogant. Warm, but not intrusive. Kendra looked down at her hands again. Her fingers trembled slightly. I'm scared, she admitted. Peter's expression softened. So am I. She lifted her eyes. You're scared? She asked, almost disbelieving. Peter nodded. I've spent years keeping people at a distance. It's easier that way. Cleaner. Predictable. But you disrupt that. Kendra let out a small breathy laugh. Disrupt? In a bad way. In a necessary way, he said. I don't want silence anymore. Her heart squeezed. The skyline's glow reflected in the glass windows behind him, turning the room into a soft mosaic of warm light and shadow. For the first time, the penthouse didn't feel like a palace she wasn't supposed to touch. It felt human. Approachable. Like stepping into another life she hadn't known existed. Kendra, Peter said gently, you don't need to decide anything today. You don't need to choose a direction or label whatever this is. Just, don't walk away. She inhaled deeply, steadying the flutter inside her chest. I'm not walking away, she said quietly. But I need time. And honesty. You'll have both. She studied him, searching for cracks in his promise. But his expression held nothing but certainty. What about people? She asked. What they'll think. He shook his head. People always think. They always talk. But the truth is, it's your life. Not theirs. Her lips parted slightly at that. And mine, he added. Mine stopped feeling like mine a long time ago. I'd like to reclaim a little of it with you. Her heartbeat stumbled. Slowly, she nodded. Once. Then again. Okay, she whispered. Peter exhaled, relieved. Okay. A subtle smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, not triumphant, not possessive, just grateful. And then, quietly, he said, Kendra, would you stay a while? She hesitated, looked out at the glowing skyline, then back at him. And for the first time, she didn't feel like she was trespassing in someone else's world. Yes, she said softly. I'll stay. And everything between them shifted, gentle, real, undeniable. Kendra stayed. But what happens next in a world where a maid who carries everyone's burdens crosses paths with a billionaire who's finally ready to face his own? If you're following this journey, tell us where you're watching from. Click like, subscribe, and continue with the next act. There's far more beneath the surface than either of them realizes. Kendra placed her cleaning kit gently on the floor beside the couch, almost as if setting it down meant setting down the invisible weight she carried every day. For the first time since entering the penthouse, she allowed herself to breathe, not the quick, guarded breaths she used to hold herself together, but a slow, grounding inhale that reached all the way through her chest. Peter noticed. He didn't move closer. He didn't reach out. He simply watched her as though something delicate was unfolding before him, something he didn't want to disrupt. Are you comfortable? He asked quietly. She nodded. A little more than I thought I'd be. His expression softened. Good. That matters. The simplicity of his words warmed her more than she expected. People rarely cared whether she was comfortable. Her comfort was never part of the job, never part of her daily routine. But here, in this penthouse she'd spent months cleaning without speaking to its owner, her comfort mattered. She tucked a strand of her long black hair behind her ear. So what happens now? He leaned back slightly, thoughtful. Now we just talk. No pressure. No expectations. Kendra raised an eyebrow. People like us don't exist without expectations. A small laugh escaped him, quiet, genuine. Maybe that's true. But maybe we can try anyway. She looked around the lavish penthouse, glowing skyline, polished marble floors, curated art pieces, and then back at him. You live in a completely different world than mine, she said. I'm not sure how someone like me fits into this. You already did, Peter replied. Before you even knew it. Her stomach fluttered. How? He took a breath, steadying himself. Because this place has been empty. For years. I built it. Designed it. But it never felt alive until last night. Kendra blinked, taken aback. All because I accidentally passed out in your bed? His lips lifted slightly. It wasn't the accident. It was the reminder. The reminder that I'm not made of stone, even though I've pretended to be. Her cheeks warmed despite her best effort. She shifted slightly on the couch, the white apron around her waist rustling faintly. I'm still trying to understand this, she admitted. All of it. You're not alone, Peter said. Her eyes lifted to his. His tone wasn't clingy or sentimental. It was steady, like a statement of fact. He continued, tell me something. And be honest. Kendra braced herself. All right. When you look at me, he said slowly, do you see a man, or a headline? She frowned. A headline. That's all I am to most people, he said. A number. A net worth. A story waiting to be twisted. Kendra's voice softened. I don't see any of that. Then what do you see? He asked, quietly hopeful. She swallowed, thinking carefully. I see someone who's lonely, she said. Someone who works too hard. Someone who doesn't trust easily but wants to. She paused. And someone who's trying. Peter looked away for a brief moment, almost as if her words landed in a place he didn't expect anyone to touch. That's closer than anyone's ever gotten, he murmured. Silence fell, but not an uncomfortable one. A warm one, filled with unspoken understanding. Kendra glanced around again, letting her gaze settle on the large windows. I've always wondered what it feels like to live this high up. What does it feel like from where you sit? He asked. She considered. It feels quiet, a little surreal, like I'm outside my own life looking in. Is that good? He asked. I don't know, she admitted, but it's not bad. Peter nodded slowly, accepting her uncertainty with grace. Then he stood. Not abruptly. Not tensely. Just stood. "I want to show you something," he said. Kendra hesitated. "Show me what?" "Come." He extended a hand, not touching her, simply offering it if she chose to take it. She rose carefully, smoothing her skirt, and followed him across the room. He walked to a large glass door she'd never noticed before. When he opened it, a faint breeze slipped in from outside. A balcony. But not just any balcony. It wrapped around half the penthouse, offering a sweeping view of the entire city. Lights glittered like scattered diamonds. Cars moved like tiny glowing threads. The night felt wide, endless, and breathtaking. Kendra stepped out slowly, her jaw falling open. "I've cleaned this place over and over," she whispered, "and I never knew this was here." Peter watched her reaction with quiet satisfaction. "I don't open it for staff. Or guests. It's personal." She turned to him, startled. "So why now?" "Because you're not staff right now," he said. "Not to me." A quiet shock washed through her. She stepped toward the edge, resting her hands on the railing. The city stretched beneath her like a living painting. The breeze lifted the ends of her long black hair, carrying the faint scent of night jasmine. Peter stood beside her, not too close, but close enough for her to feel his presence. "Sometimes," he said softly, "seeing the world from here reminds me that the things I'm afraid of look smaller when I step back." Kendra's eyes traced the horizon. "I've never seen the city like this," she murmured. "It's beautiful." "So are you." The word slipped out, quiet, honest, unforced. Kendra froze, breath catching. Her heart thudded once, deep and loud. She turned her head slightly. His gaze was gentle, steady, not hungry or demanding. Just admiring. Softly admiring. She didn't move away. Not this time. A breeze swept between them, carrying the moment into something fragile and full of possibility. "Peter," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes?" he asked, still watching her with that steady warmth. "I don't know where this is going." He nodded. "Neither do I. But I'd like to find out with you." Something inside her loosened, fear, tension, the wall she'd held up for years. And for the first time, she felt herself leaning, not physically, but emotionally, toward a door she'd never considered opening. "Okay," she whispered. Peter's expression softened even further. The city lights glowed beneath them like stars drawn to earth. And between those lights, and the quiet breeze, and the unexpected stillness between them, something new began to take shape. Something delicate but undeniable. Something neither of them could walk away from now. The balcony air held a softness that felt almost unreal, cool enough to lift Kendra's long black hair, warm enough not to chase her back inside. She stood there, hands on the railing, the city glittering below like a promise she didn't know she deserved. Peter stayed beside her, matching her silence with his own, letting the moment breathe. Nothing about him felt rushed. Nothing about him felt forceful. He simply waited, still, anchored, attentive. Kendra swallowed, grounding herself. "Peter, people like you don't just look at people like me the way you just did." His brow creased. "What do you mean, people like me?" "People with everything," she said quietly. "Money. Power. A future already paved out. A name that opens doors." She glanced down at her apron. "And people like me clean those doors." Peter leaned on the railing, eyes following the streetlights far below. "You think that's what I care about?" "I think everyone cares about it," she replied softly. "Even if they don't admit it." He turned his head, studying her carefully. "Then maybe you've been around the wrong kind of people." Kendra didn't respond. Not yet. Because something tugged at her, tender, confusing, unexpected. Peter continued, voice low. "You know, you're the only person in this place who doesn't treat me like a business, a headline, or a ladder step." She blinked. "I clean your carpets and scrub your sinks. Not much room for social climbing there." But he shook his head. "No. You don't look at me the way others do. You don't pretend. You don't flatter. You don't try to gain anything." "That's because there's nothing for me to gain," she murmured, almost embarrassed. "Exactly," he said. "Which is why you're the only person I actually trust." His honesty hit her harder than the breeze. Trust. Such a simple word. Yet so rare in her life, and his. Kendra looked back up at the skyline, trying to steady herself. The lights blurred slightly before refocusing. Peter didn't move closer, but he angled his body slightly toward her. Kendra, last night wasn't an inconvenience. It was clarity. Her heartbeat stumbled. Clarity. You were warm, he said softly, remembering. Small. Quiet. Peaceful. You slept like someone who never gets to rest. His gaze lowered. And that bothered me. It shouldn't have, but it did. Kendra's breath caught. She suddenly felt exposed, in a way no one had ever made her feel before. Not physically. Emotionally. Why? She whispered. Because, Peter said, voice almost a murmur, you shouldn't have to be exhausted just to survive. Kendra felt her throat tighten. She closed her eyes briefly, letting the wind cool her face. It had been years since she'd heard words like that, words without pity, without judgment. Words that acknowledged her reality instead of dismissing it. And then she said something she didn't expect to voice aloud. My job. It's not just a job. It's the only thing keeping me afloat. She exhaled shakily. I send money home. My little sister, she depends on me. Peter's expression softened instantly. You take care of her? Someone has to, she whispered. She's bright. She wants college. I never got that chance. But she will. She has to. Silence stretched, not cold but thoughtful. Peter's voice was gentle when he finally said, You carry a lot for someone who stands so tall. Her eyes glistened. She looked away quickly. Peter didn't touch her. Didn't crowd her. He simply stood beside her, solid, warm, grounding. Kendra, he said softly. You don't have to hold everything alone. She let out a trembling laugh. Who else is going to help? You. Yes, he answered without hesitation. Me. Kendra's head snapped toward him, startled. You don't even know me. He shook his head. I know what matters. And what's that? She whispered. That you have a good heart, he said. That you're strong. That you care deeply about the people you love. That you came in here today, ready to face consequences you didn't deserve because you've been fighting your whole life. Her breath trembled. He saw too much. Way too much. And, he added quietly, I know that last night scared you, but today you stayed. Kendra exhaled slowly. She didn't know how to respond. Peter continued, I don't want you to be afraid of me. I'm not afraid, she said, though her heartbeat argued otherwise. You are. He said it gently. Not accusing, knowing. She stared at him, unsure how he could read her so easily. Maybe because he wasn't trying to control the moment. He was simply present. Kendra, he said, voice softer than the breeze, look at me. She didn't move at first. But eventually, she did. The city lights reflected in his hazel eyes. He didn't look powerful. He didn't look intimidating. He looked human. Real. Concerned. You can trust me, he said quietly. I'm not here to take anything from you. Her chest ached. Because trust was not something she gave easily. But right now, she realized something. She did trust him. Not fully. Not recklessly. But enough to stay. Enough to listen. Enough to stand beside him on a balcony she'd never have stepped onto if her life hadn't collided with his. Peter exhaled, relief crossing his features. Come inside, he said softly. There's something I want to show you. Kendra hesitated. What is it? A piece of my life, he said. One I never share. She felt a shiver, not of fear, but anticipation. Slowly, carefully, she followed him back into the penthouse. The night wasn't over. And neither were the truths between them. Peter led Kendra back through the penthouse with a quiet determination she hadn't seen in him before. His steps were steady, purposeful, almost hesitant, as if he was about to open a door he'd kept locked for years. Kendra followed closely, watching the way his shoulders shifted, noticing the tension in his jaw. Whatever he wanted to show her wasn't casual. It wasn't decorative. It wasn't a billionaire showing off another luxury. It meant something. He stopped at a long hallway near the back of the penthouse, a place she rarely entered during her cleaning routines. Most of the doors there were always closed, sometimes locked, sometimes untouched for months. But tonight, one of those doors held a quiet energy around it. He rested his hand on the doorknob for a moment before speaking. "No one comes in here," he said softly. "Not staff, not guests, not anyone." Kendra's heart thumped once hard. "Are you sure you want to show me?" His eyes lifted to hers. "Yes." He pushed the door open. Inside was a room she never expected. Not gold. Not marble. Not sleek modern design. But something deeply human. Soft lighting. Warm colors. A large window looking over the city. Stacks of notebooks on the shelves. Art supplies. Carved wooden pieces. Photos. Frames. Sketches. And a single piano sitting in the corner, its black surface polished but clearly played often. The room felt lived in. Not curated. Not staged. Real. Kendra stepped inside slowly, her eyes moving across every detail with growing surprise. "This," she whispered, "this doesn't look like the rest of your home." "That's because it isn't," Peter said quietly behind her. "This is the part of me money never touched." She turned toward him, stunned by the vulnerability in his voice. He walked past her and touched the edge of the piano, running his fingers along the smooth surface. "My mother taught me to play here," he said, "before everything changed." Kendra froze. His mother. He had never mentioned her before. "What happened?" she asked gently. Peter took a slow breath, as if gathering old memories he rarely touched. "She passed when I was 16, he said. "Cancer. Fast. Aggressive." Kendra's chest tightened. She stepped closer, not touching but near enough. "I'm sorry," she murmured. He nodded, eyes fixed on the piano keys. "She used to say music makes truth easier to carry." His jaw clenched slightly. "After she died. I didn't play anymore." Kendra hesitated, then asked softly, "Why keep the piano?" "Because it's the only piece of her I still have." She felt her heart swell, not with pity, but with recognition. Loss had a way of shaping people, of building walls she understood all too well. Peter continued, his voice low. "This room is the only place where I can breathe. Where I can stop being everything everyone expects." Kendra let her fingertips brush a paintbrush resting on the shelf. "You paint." "Sometimes." He rubbed the back of his neck with a small, embarrassed laugh. "Badly." She picked up a small canvas leaning against the wall. Her breath caught. It was a half-finished portrait. Soft outlines. Long dark hair flowing. Warm eyes. A face that wasn't finished, but recognizable. It was her. Kendra's pulse stumbled. She felt the room tilt slightly, grounding herself before her voice emerged. "Peter, is this me?" He stiffened. Then nodded slowly. "I started it months ago," he said quietly. "Long before last night. Long before today." She blinked, overwhelmed. "But why?" "You barely talked to me before." He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "You think I didn't see you?" Her heart lurched. "I saw everything," he murmured. "Your kindness. Your precision. The way you take pride in your work even when no one notices. The way you stand straight even when you're exhausted." Her breathing hitched. "Every day you came in here and moved quietly through this huge place like you were invisible." His eyes met hers. "You weren't invisible to me." The room felt smaller suddenly, warmer, closer. Kendra tried to steady her voice. "And what were you trying to paint?" He looked at the portrait again, thoughtful. "You the way I see you. Strong. Beautiful. Real." Her throat tightened, the honesty hitting deeper than she expected. She set the canvas down carefully, turning toward him fully. "Why show me this now?" Peter stepped closer, slowly, respectfully. "Because you let me see your truth on the balcony," he said. "And it felt right to show you mine." Kendra exhaled shakily. "Peter, this is a lot." "I know," he said softly. "I don't want to overwhelm you. But I don't want to hide anymore either." She nodded slowly, processing his words. The room was filled with unspoken things, loss, longing, fear, possibility. Then Peter lifted the piano lid gently and sat on the bench. "You said last night changed things," he murmured. "So let me change one more thing." Kendra stepped closer, unsure. "What are you doing?" "Trying," he said simply, "to remember how to breathe again." His fingers hovered above the keys. Hesitation. A long pause. Then, a soft, trembling note. Kendra's breath caught. One note became another. Then a third. A fragile melody slowly formed, imperfect but beautiful in its sincerity. Kendra felt something warm bloom inside her chest. Something she hadn't expected. Something she wasn't prepared for. This wasn't a billionaire showing off a skill. This was a man bearing a wound. Her voice softened. "Peter." He didn't look up. He kept playing, eyes focused on memories only he could see. "I'm afraid," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "Of what?" she asked gently. "That if I let you in, everything will change." Kendra swallowed hard. Maybe change isn't always bad. He finally looked at her then, really looked. And she felt the room pull them closer, inch by inch. "Kendra," he whispered. "I don't want you to walk away." Her heart thudded. She took one small step toward him. "I'm not walking." Kendra stood beside the piano, her breath caught between fear and something softer, something she didn't dare name yet. Peter's fingers hovered over the keys, the melody fading into the quiet of the room. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The city hummed outside the window. The lights shimmered like stars born on sidewalks. And in this small hidden room, wrapped in memories, secrets, and truth, Kendra realized something she hadn't understood until now. This was the real Peter. Not the billionaire. Not the headline. Not the polished executive. Just a man who wanted someone to stay. She lowered herself onto the piano bench beside him, close enough to feel his warmth but not touching. "You don't have to play if it hurts," she whispered. He exhaled slowly. "It doesn't hurt the way it used to." His voice quivered. "Not with you here." Kendra felt that ache again, the one she kept trying to ignore. It grew stronger. More persistent. More honest. She placed her hand gently on the piano, not on him, but near enough that he could feel the intention behind the gesture. "I'm not going anywhere," she said quietly. "Not unless you ask me to." Peter turned his head, slow, cautious, as though afraid she might disappear. "You mean that?" "I do." His shoulders relaxed for the first time all evening. The worry softened. The tension eased. He closed the piano lid carefully, as if ending a chapter instead of a melody, and faced her fully. "Kendra," he said, steady now, "last night wasn't a mistake to me." Her heart pounded. "I know," she admitted. "I'm starting to feel that too." He stood, and she followed. The room glowed with soft gold as the city lights streamed in behind them. Everything felt still. Suspended. Sacred. Peter reached out, not grabbing, not pulling, just offering his hand. She hesitated for only a heartbeat before placing her hand in his. Their fingers intertwined naturally, as if they'd been waiting for this moment since the day she stepped into the penthouse with her cleaning supplies and careful smile. "Kendra," he said softly, "I don't want to pretend we understand everything. I don't want to rush you. I don't want to control anything. I just," he breathed out, searching for the right words. "I want a chance. A real one. With you." Kendra swallowed, her eyes warming. "You're not the only one taking a chance here, Peter. My life isn't easy. My family depends on me. My world is complicated." "I'm not trying to take your world away," he said gently. "I just hope you'll let me be part of it." The sincerity in his voice undid her. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. She stepped closer, just a little. "Okay," she whispered. "One step at a time." He smiled, small, relieved, and unbelievably warm. "One step is all I need," he murmured. They walked out of the room hand in hand, but before they reached the hallway, Peter paused. "There's one more thing," he said. Kendra arched a brow. "There's more." He opened another drawer in the piano bench and pulled out an envelope, old, worn, edges curled. "My mother wrote this to me on her last night in the hospital," he said quietly. I never understood it until today. He handed it to her gently. Read it. Kendra opened it slowly. The handwriting was delicate, careful, beautiful in a way only a mother's handwriting could be. She read aloud, softly. My son, love will not come to you in the world you build. It will come to you from the world you ignore. Look for the quiet light, not the loud one. Look for the person who sees the man, not the success. When she arrives, you'll know, because you'll breathe differently in her presence. Kendra's voice wavered at the last line. She looked up. Peter was already looking at her, eyes warm, steady, certain. I didn't understand what she meant, he said. Until you walked into my life. Kendra's breath caught. Peter. He stepped closer, not overwhelming, not rushing, just close enough that she could feel him. You helped me breathe again, he whispered. And I want to help you breathe too. A tear slid down her cheek, not from sadness, but from something deeper. I don't know what the future looks like, she admitted softly. We'll figure it out, he replied. Together. Kendra nodded slowly, feeling a warmth bloom through her chest. Okay, she whispered. Together. Peter lifted her hand and pressed a soft kiss to her knuckles, not possessive, not hurried, just grateful. She didn't pull away. They walked back to the living room where the soft hum of the city welcomed them like an unseen witness. The room felt different now. Less like a place she cleaned and more like a place she belonged. Peter turned to her again. Stay for dinner, he said gently. Not as staff. As you. Kendra smiled, shy, unsure, hopeful. Yes, she said. I'd like that. He exhaled, his smile matching hers. They stood there for a long moment, just looking at each other, understanding more in silence than words could ever express. Then, with the city lights dancing around them, they stepped into a future neither had expected. Not perfect, not predictable, but real. A man learning to love again. A woman learning to trust again. Two lives crossing at the exact moment they needed each other. And for the first time in years, both of them finally breathed. From a drunken mix-up to a truth-filled ending, Kendra and Peter discovered something stronger than circumstance: connection. If this story inspired you, tell us where you're watching from. Like, share, and subscribe for more love stories and for unforgettable journeys of love, hope, and second chances.